Last time we talked about judgment from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Today we're going to look at unhealthy judgment, which comes from worry. So this whole idea that Jesus is bringing us on in his Sermon on the Mount is about overcoming worry. And today we'll look specifically at unhealthy judgment that comes from worry. So we'll look at three ways in which unhealthy judgment affects us negatively. I want you to stick with me. I think you're going to find this to be encouraging and helpful. Hi, my name is Scott Gossenberger, and I'm so glad you joined me in this the series that we're looking at 7 Minutes of Truth. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel and ring the bell so you can be notified about upcoming videos. So let's jump right into it. So Jesus says this in these first 3 verses talking about judgment. Let me read it for you. He says, "Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. With the measure you use, it will be measured to you." Verse 3, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye?" What does that mean? What is Jesus trying to say to us here in terms of unhealthy judgment? And we mentioned last time that unhealthy judgment often is a way in which we just protect ourselves. That it comes from worry, but also sometimes people use these words of Jesus as a defense mechanism. They say, "Don't judge me," or "You're judging me," or "Don't be a judge," or "Don't quit judging so much." I was on Facebook, and there was a company that used a particular form of advertising that violated my values. And I don't know why I did this. I do this sometimes. It's kind of dumb. I know it's dumb, but I just couldn't help myself. I just commented and say, "I'm no longer using this company. I'm going with a different company." That's all I said. But it encouraged a lot of response. I had people that responded pretty negatively towards me. Not many. And most people, actually, the vast majority of people supported my position. But there was a couple who just really didn't like the fact that based on my values, I chose to not go with that company. Inevitably, what they threw at me was, "Don't judge. You're judging people," and that kind of thing. And I couldn't help myself. I had to respond again. So I responded and say yes. This was my response to one of the individuals. I said, "Yes, you're right. I am judging. And yes, we are supposed to judge." And I said the scripture and Jesus himself actually tells us to apply judgment, because when we don't, we actually wind up ensnared by things that are negative and bad for us. So how do we apply this scripture so that we don't get involved in unhealthy judgment which comes from worry? I think the first thing to keep in mind, what Jesus mentions right at the beginning, is unhealthy judgment creates an environment of fault finding. When we apply judgment from worry, we start creating this atmosphere of fault finding. Here's what's happening. We're worrying. The reason why we are proactive in our judgment that's unhealthy is we worry that we're going to be taken advantage of, and so we judge to keep the bad people at bay. Unhealthy judgment is more concerned with attaching blame than actually attaching correction or what might be beneficial for the other person. Secondly, unhealthy judgment generates a destructive response rather than a healthy response. Now, I would say that even if you apply judgment, like we might say accountability could be a form of judgment, even if you apply judgment in a positive way, it doesn't guarantee that the response is going to be positive or healthy. It's just that you're more likely to have a positive or healthy response when you apply judgment for the purpose of helping the other person be better off, or to grow, maybe grow in their faith or grow in their relationships. And then thirdly, unhealthy judgment is primarily concerned about the behavior of others and ignores their own behavioral problems. That's what Jesus says. He uses actually a comical illustration. He says, you see your brother who has a speck in their eye, but you have this big old plank in your eye, and you're trying to pull out their speck. Well, obviously you can't pull out the speck in somebody else's eye when you have a plank in your own eye. Now notice what Jesus is saying. He's saying there really is a problem with someone else. There really is something that needs to be corrected. There is behavior, or there is something going on with the other person. It's a speck, right? There's something that's an irritation for that other person, and you want to help them, but you can't really help them if what is going on in you is worse than what's going on with them. So deal with your own side of the fence first before you try to talk to anybody about what's going on with them. So Jesus talks about this unhealthy judgment, which really is about me. It's me focused rather than other people focused. Healthy judgment, which we'll talk about next. Healthy judgment is concerned about the other person, what's best for them. But it might not even just be about the person. It actually might be about the community, that we want to deal with another person's behavior or attitude or whatever, because the community or the family is being affected adversely because of their behavior. So next time we'll look at what Jesus talks about as unhealthy judgment. We'll spend a fair amount of time on that. I encourage you to join me. Don't forget to ring the bell so that you can be notified about our next 7-minute video.